The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good evening. My name is Jacob Kaza. I'm a planner with the City of Westminster's Community Development Department. Tonight, we're going over the proposed Quik-Trip development neighborhood meeting. We've got an agenda prepared for the evening. First, welcome and introduction of the staff and the applicant team. Then the city has a presentation to go over a few items. The applicant has their presentation, and after both of the presentations, we'll have a question and answer session, and then a conclusion at the end. Let me back up for just a second, sorry. So first off, from the city, we have me, the planner who's assigned to the case. We have Rita McConnell, our planning manager, John McConnell, our principal planner, Heath Klein, our transportation engineer, Michael Wright, who's our principal engineer, and Dave Downey, who's our community development director. From the applicant team, they have Mike Talcott from Quik-Trip, who will be giving the presentation. The proposed Quik-Trip development is located at the northwest corner of 104th Avenue and Sheridan Boulevard on the vacant land that's adjacent to the Westminster City Park and the Westminster Recreation Center and Fitness Center. Here you can see it outlined in red. The comprehensive plan, which is a mandatory document for the City of Westminster, designates this property as retail commercial. The property is zoned planned unit development. The proposed development would feature a Quik-Trip gas station and convenience store on the east side of the property. In this image that you're looking at here, north is to your right, and that would be Sheridan Boulevard on the bottom of the image, and west 104th Avenue on the left side of the image. And Quik-Trip would be located closest to Sheridan Boulevard, and they're proposing to leave a second lot vacant right now for future retail commercial development on the west side, more adjacent to the recreation center. This development application has to go through several different review cycles and several different applications for it. So currently, the Quik-Trip development has submitted a preliminary development plan application, and that's required under the planned unit development zoning. They have gone through their first staff review, and then after their first staff review, they're required to hold a neighborhood meeting, and that's the current stage they're at, and that's shown in orange. After this neighborhood meeting, they'll be required to go back through staff reviews as needed, and then an approval for this preliminary development plan application would need to be reviewed and considered by the Planning Commission and City Council at a public hearing. And that public hearing would be noticed to the same list that got the mailing notice for this, and it'd be posted on the site and in the newspaper and on the city's website. After that preliminary development application, the developer also has to file an official development plan application, and that goes through a very similar process as the preliminary development plan. And so it would also have a staff review, a neighborhood meeting, and then because of the size of this site, it would actually be eligible for administrative approval if the criteria were met and if the preliminary development plan had been approved. And after that, the developer will still have to submit civil construction drawings and building permits with the city, and they have other requirements to file with the state as well for a gas station. Their application is being reviewed against the standards for approval of preliminary development application. That's located in the Westminster Municipal Code, Title 11, Chapter 5, Section 14. These standards shall be considered, and they're listed on our city website. I don't want to go through all 10 of them in this neighborhood meeting, but if you're unable to access this link, please feel free to contact me. My email will be at the end of this presentation, and I can send this standards out to you. So for the applicant presentation today, we have Mike Talcott, and I'm going to go ahead and hand over the controls to him, and he's going to go through his presentation.
Thank you, Jacob. Hopefully from our practice session, I remember how to control this. All attendees, thank you for joining us tonight and in our new virtual world. Hopefully between Jacob and I, we can carry this off without many hitches. Jacob, am I running the PowerPoint off
yes,
of your
you should be able to hit left and right or down and up on your keyboard there.
Okay. I am not seeing the PowerPoint yet. I just see where you say applicant presentation.
Let me take away your controls and give it to you.
Bear with us, folks. Thank you.
Here you go, Mike.
Oh. All right. Can you still hear me fine? Well, everyone, once again, I'm Mike Talcott with Quik-Trip Corporation. I'm in the real estate development department for our company. Brief history, I've been with Quik-Trip for 23 years now, started in the stores and then have kind of worked my way through the different departments, and now I get to help build new stores. Let's see if I can figure out. There we go. Maybe there was a lag there. Sorry. Let me make sure I'm hitting the right one. Well, this slide, safe place. Quik-Trip shares the vision of safe neighborhoods and communities. That's why we've partnered with Safe Place to designate our stores as safe place sites for at-risk youth. Safe Place is a national nonprofit organization, provides safety for troubled and threatened youth since 1991. We've been designated a safe place where runaways and at-risk youth can come in off the street, receive food and drink, and wait for a volunteer from a Safe Place agency to connect with them. To go a little off the slide here, when I've worked in the stores before, I did have opportunity where I did have some younger kids come in that needed help. It was my job in the store to, make them feel comfortable, give them something to drink, eat, usually have them in the back room away from everybody while we called someone who's actually a trained counselor to come in and see what they need and help them. It's something that Safe Place is not currently in the Denver area, but with us coming to the Denver area, they will extend to this area. The closest one that I saw so far is in Colorado Springs. They did have one. And there's the website here, nationalsafeplace.org. that if anyone wants to go and read a little more about them. And I'm trying to go to the next slide. Oh, I just did something, Jacob.
Mike, I'll go ahead and back you up. You actually had a few slides before this.
Yeah, my controls aren't working for some reason.
There you go.
Okay, so a few facts about Quik-Trip. 15 years on Fortune's list of 100 best companies to work for in America. And this is by a survey that is sent out to employees of companies all across the country. That it's anonymous. Quik-Trip Corporation does not have any control over which employees the packet is sent to, and they do not, I mean, the employees mail them back on themselves, by themselves, I'm sorry. Perennially listed on Forbes' top 100 privately held companies. We're currently at 29 out of 100. Each new location that we open, average of averages, creates 22 new jobs per store. Quik-Trip has been around for over 60 years, started in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Family that started us still owns us. We are all family owned. We are not publicly traded. We're a privately held company. We have never laid off an employee in the history of the company. Average store manager earns $80,000 or more per year. Average entry-level assistant manager starting pay is $45,000 per year. Now, along with that, both those salaries comes 401k, profit sharing, and full healthcare benefits. Quik-Trip contributes 5% of its profits to charitable organizations in the communities in which we operate. Something to elaborate on that a little more is that what I think makes it kind of unique is that the store employees actually nominate other employees to be on the board that actually control and decide where that 5% goes. So it can be a small drop-in center, it can be a larger one like United Way, but the employees get to control where the charitable donations are going. Jacob, I apologize, I still can't hit next.
I'll go ahead and advance it for you, Mike.
So, thank you. Okay, and I went through this one. There we go. Folds of Honor. Quik-Trip is a proud supporter of our military families, employees, and customers. We partner with the Folds of Honor Foundation to provide scholarships to military families in the cities where we operate stores, commissaries, and distribution warehouses. Once again, foldsofhonor.org. You can learn more about the organization. You know, this is something that, as the proud father of my oldest son is in the Air Force, I'm especially proud of that fact. On next one, Jacob. Store security features. We are committed to providing best security features for our employees and customers. We are widely considered to be the best in the industry due to the commitment to providing a safe operation. Every square inch, and that's really quite literal, every square inch of QT property will be under video surveillance. And next slide. These are some of the components of our security systems. We have alarm buttons in the check stand located discreetly where they can be pressed to alert the security department. Backroom alarm buttons, personal dual button belt alarms that, for those of you that are a little older like myself, I'll date myself, they look like pagers almost, that are just clipped on each employee's belt. We have cameras in the check stand, cameras on the sales floor, and all those cameras are live video broadcast to our 24-hour, 7-day-a-week corporate security department at our headquarters in Tulsa. Video monitor and microphone with DVR is right there in the check stand. We have pinhole cameras in the casings of the doors as you exit the stores. They get very clear pictures of everybody. Safe by design. We try not to have dark corners, places for people to hide or for just to be up to mischief. That's all part of the site design. And then lighting. We work with the city very carefully and closely to come up with a lighting plan that meets their guidelines for light trespass, but at the same time maintains a good level of lighting across the site. I think we all have been to different businesses, not just convenience stores, where it was dimly lit or there were lots of dark areas and light areas. We like to try to even it out. All of our lighting is LED, full cutoff design, LEDs. The light that is emitted can be turned up or down, which is part of the way that we're able to work with cities to meet their guidelines, but then also still maintain the lighting we need on the site. Next slide, I'm sorry. So here is a different site, of course, different site plan, but if you can see all these triangles, those, like I said, that's every square inch of the site plan, just about. Those just show all the radiuses and what the cameras are picking up. And you can see there's multiple angles, lots of overlap, and those are on all the time. Okay. And we have a 4,900 square foot convenience store with, I think, fairly, very attractive architecture. And in our convenience store, this is showing our full kitchen that we have in the back. This is where customers can come in, and you can barely see it peeking over the rack on the left-hand side. There's a little screen there that's a touch screen that customers can come up and just go through the different screens and hand build their food items, whether it be pizza, flatbread sandwiches, tacos, burritos, whatever it may be. They place their order, and then the people in the back work on it. And when their number's ready, they call them and you come to the counter and pick it up. We can go on to the next screen. Just another view. This is if we were standing in the front of the store looking towards the right. We have roller grill items as well, self-serve. Half the coolers are on one side of the building, half the coolers are the other, for every type of drink consumers would want, from energy drinks to protein shakes to juices, sodas, whatever it may be. And in the front of this slide, you'll see in the middle of our check stand floor, we have open air refrigerated gondolas where we stock many, what I would consider to be much healthier food items. The convenience store industry is definitely, we've seen a genesis, not a genesis, but an evolution to where people don't want, microwave junk food. They want something that's a healthy choice. And we actually prepare all of these fresh food items in our commissary, and then they get delivered to the store on a weekly basis, if not daily basis, based on how much is sold. So you can see here, we always have fresh fruit. We have some yogurt cups on the bottom shelf. Those are cubed fruit cups with pineapple, banana, grapes, all those things. We can go on to the next slide. And then this is check stand, or the front of the store looking towards the left. You can see on the left, the far left there is our fresh brewed tea stations. We have sweetened and unsweetened, black teas, green teas, and those are all made and remade. I believe it's every 2 hours at this point. They're supposed to stay good for up to 4, but we make them fresh every 2 hours to make sure they always taste their best. We have the donut case there. All the donuts are made in our Quik-Trip commissary as well. And then on the bottom right corner of this slide, you can see the other open air cold gondola that has the yogurt cups and fruit cups and other healthier snack items. Go to the next. These are just some slides of other healthier food items that we have. We have the salads, which once again are made fresh daily, packaged in our commissaries and shipped to our stores. Top right, just the long side of the open air gondola. In the store, we make fresh sub sandwiches, either made to order, or we have the general, what we think people will like, that are made fresh daily and put out on the shelf to be sold as well. And then with our condiment bar, which was in the previous 2 slides ago, people can then open them up and add other condiments to it if they'd like. And the bottom right is, once again, the healthier foods gondola. The next. And just some more of our food items. And And next one. These are some of the items made in the kitchen. The top is a protein bowl, eggs, bacon, your choice of meat. And once again, you select on the touch screen, you select that you want one of the protein bowls, and then you decide what gets put in it. And then the kitchen staff puts it together for you. Top right, one of our popular items, one of my personal weaknesses, is the fresh made donuts. Bottom left, we have croissant sandwiches. I'm not supposed to say that McDonald's copyrighted name, but once again, made to order from, egg to ham to you name it, however you'd like it prepared. Bottom right is a picture of one of our pizzas. That's actually the breakfast pizza, which I don't know if you guys have had anybody else's breakfast pizza, but it's very good. Next slide. Top left is our burrito taco variation. Top right, we do have pulled pork, barbecue brisket, and shredded chicken barbecue sandwiches that can be made in the kitchen as well. Bottom left is the sub sandwiches that we make in the store. And then another photo of our pizzas on the bottom right. Next. Top left, we do sell hot dogs. Also, any of the sandwiches that you can order, you can choose to have them made as a wrap sandwich as well. And then the bottom slide, in our kitchen, we actually make made to order shakes as well. There's different additives, different flavorings, you name it, we can put it in there for you. Next slide. Here are just some of our more standard drink offers. Top left is the fresh made tea bar, which I already talked about before. Top right is one of the frozen drinks, the frozen cappuccinos and hot chocolates. And then to the left on that slide are the hot cappuccinos. Bottom left is some of our frozen slushy type drinks, many different flavors. And bottom right is our regular coffee bar. I think it's too small to read the labels, but we always have a regular, a dark roast. We'll have a flavor of the month, like a Colombian or a Kona blend, as well as decaf and, like I said before, regular. Now, our full service kitchen does actually have a barista in it as well. So if you want a iced mocha latte or something like that, once again, the touchscreen menu, and you select it, and then the kitchen staff will make it for you. Next slide. Okay, this is just an overview. Jacob already showed one, but just one that I had in this presentation of where the proposed location is. Next slide. These are just some other convenience stores, and it just meant to demonstrate, and this was with some of our earlier discussions with staff, just that this was kind of I won't say a hole, but it was a spot where there was lack of coverage. And this just shows some of the others and how they're spaced out, some of our competition. Next slide. Here is a colored rendering of our proposed site plan. As Jacob, and once again on this one, north is top. So out in front is Sheridan, and on the bottom is 104th. As you can see, we're currently proposing us to be on the corner. And then on the west, behind our store, is a potential another pad for another user to come in and develop. We currently don't have a plan for that. We've talked with city staff about possible uses, and we'll continue to work with city staff on what would be a good accessory use as well. Next. These are some color elevations or renderings of the site. As you can see, driving through the facility there, I saw the ornamental walls, and really from the get-go wanted to fit in with this overall development. So what we're proposing to do is mimic or copy the ornamental walls that are at all the entrances and throughout the facility as well. So next slide. These are just a couple of the pictures I took of what's currently in the facility. So like I said, we will, as we move forward, if there are existing plans, city staff wants us to match exactly or do something a little different, we are on board. We pride ourselves on coming in and becoming an asset to the community. and an accessory use and an amenity. So I want to come in and be part of this overall development. Next. Here's just another view, color rendering of the site. And this is looking down from Sheridan. Next. And then this would be on 103rd, looking through the side driveway. Once again, you can see the ornamental walls and then what we have so far as planned landscaping. As with any development process, working with city staff, there's still changes to be made, additional landscaping to put in, but that is something that we want our facilities to look attractive. Landscaping, it just makes everything look better. It shields different users. It's something that we take pride in. We actually are very fastidious about keeping up on our landscaping, mowing, trees, everything. Go ahead, next please. And then this is on 104th, looking up towards the site. And what we're proposing is a right in, right out driveway at this time. And next slide. And then this is from the intersection. Oh, it says 105th, but I believe, yeah, it is 105th. The intersection of 105th and Sheridan, once again, looking at an angle. And next slide. And then this is on 104th, looking straight west. As you can see us way off to the right there. Next. And then the intersection of 104th and Sheridan, looking up at the site. And next. And then farther up on 104th, once again, looking west. And next slide. This is more of a technical elevation demonstration of our building. One thing that used to be very unique, but now is still fairly unique as compared to some of our competition, is that we actually have two entrances on the front of the store and then one entrance on either side, the left and right side of the store. Through the years, as once again the convenience industry has changed and our food offer has become much broader, we do surveys of our customers and existing stores, and somewhere around 3 out of 10 customers, because it's varied a little bit up and down, but somewhere around 3 out of 10 customers are actually getting fuel. The other 7 out of 10 are coming in to get a cold drink, bag of ice, something quick to eat. So that's where the side entrances come from. So that way they can pull into the side entrance, go right in, no conflict with cars that are getting fuel at the gas canopy. It's something that we started, I think about 8 years ago, we built the first one, and it's worked very well. Next slide. I put this up here. I don't know how long Jacob wants to leave it up. I know we're going to go through some questions, and glad to answer any and all the best of my ability. But this is my personal email. After the meeting concludes tomorrow, next day, whenever it may be, if you have another question or suggestion, please send me an email and I will respond. Jacob, thank you for clicking the slides. I don't know why I couldn't control it, but I appreciate the assistance.
Oh yeah, sure, Mike. So I just wanted to just for the audience, give one little clarification that at the preliminary development plan stage of their application and their development application, the city council and the planning commission are really only looking at this stage at the land use and kind of the adjacent proximity and setbacks around it. So at this stage, the city's not going to analyze the building architecture and the site plan in depth, and that those analysis and decisions would be made with the official development plan. So if you had specific questions about those items, those would be better addressed at the official development plan stage, but we'll be glad to answer them as well. And then we'll go ahead and transition into the question and answer. You can type your question or comments into your chat box, and then that'll show up into ours and we'll be able to read them aloud. Additionally, if you'd like to speak, there's a raise hand feature. You can raise your hand and then we'll call on you and give you the opportunity to speak. Or you can also type in you would like to speak, and we'll go ahead and go through that portion right now. So bear with us as we go ahead and transition into the question and answer session. Okay, this question is from Greg. I'm gonna mispronounce your last name, Jackson. You said, are you able to forward the presentation? I just joined in late. The app was slow to load. Or will it be available for review online? So this will be available for review online. We're actually streaming live right now on YouTube, and that will stay up on YouTube. And if you cannot find it on the city's YouTube site, please feel free to email me. My email is on the next slide, and I can share that link with you to the YouTube, the entire presentation. Okay. Other than Greg, let's see. Here's a question from Martin McCullough. Martin McCullough said, "Is this a permitted use under the Comprehensive Land Use Plan?" Using the acronym CLUP. So the Comprehensive Land Use Plan designates this property as retail commercial. Under the retail commercial designation, gas stations or convenience stores are considered a limited use. And at this location, one of the limitations in the comprehensive plan is the proximity or adjacency to city parks, recreation centers, schools, other things like that. And the comprehensive plan goes into better depth. It is staff's opinion that this use would be limited by the comprehensive plan, and so it is not specifically listed as a permitted use, to answer your question. Lloyd Weber asks, has the concept of putting a gas station at that location already been approved, or is that still in question? So great question, Lloyd. That has not been approved. So that's actually what Quik-Trip is asking for. They're specifically asking to get approval of putting a gas station at this location. And that's what City Council will have to ultimately decide. Okay. Greg asks, can you talk briefly about the proposed in and out plans for entrance? I heard right in and right out. Is there an entrance from 105th? Any on 104th itself? Perhaps you could bounce back to the slide. So Greg, yes, I'll go ahead and go backwards to the slide.
Okay.
So here on the slide, you can see Quik-Trip's currently proposing actually 4 entrances to the site, one from 105th, one from Sheridan, and 2 from 104th. These entrances have not been approved right now by city staff, so that's something that the city staff is still currently reviewing.
And if I can add on to that, Jacob.
Sure, Mike, go ahead.
This site has quite a bit of history. Before Quik-Trip got involved, there was a court decree that put in place that the 105th access, which is full, the right in, right out, which is on Sheridan, and then the far left full access on 104th were part of a court decree that said those access points could be there. The one additional that we were asking for is the one closer to the intersection on 104th, and that would be a right in, right out only. And part of that is just our thought on internal circulation, and then when there is a second pad user, being able to have traffic flow in and out of the site even better. And that was all.
Just to clarify that, Lloyd, it's right in, right out, and that would mean the vehicles are only able to make right turns, and nobody can make left turns out of the intersection or left turns into it. So Sandra has a question. She says she's concerned about the traffic heading north on Sheridan trying to turn onto 105th. The traffic already backs up terribly without having an additional reason for people to turn there. So has the traffic been studied at all? I'd like to give Mike an opportunity to respond, and then we also have our transportation engineer, Heath Klein, available, who can respond to that as well.
Yeah, Sandra, I am not a traffic engineer, but we did actually have a traffic study done by a traffic engineer. And if I'm understanding correctly, it's going north on Sheridan, turning left on 105th is the concern. There is an actual turn lane there for people to get over and get out of the main traffic continuing on north. And also that is a signal controlled intersection. You know, part of the convenience store industry is just that convenience. As much as I would love to say that we are a destination for folks, we really survive, and all of my competitors out there as well survive off of the traffic and the households that are already in that neighborhood. So I don't anticipate there being an increase. But like I said, the traffic study that we did does show and support that will not be an issue.
Good evening, Heath Klein, city's transportation engineer here. That is a good question and is a good concern. Currently, we do see in the peak hours in the morning and sometimes in the peak hour in the evening that northbound left turn does stack up. And so as part of the evaluation, if this continues to move forward, we will be looking at options for elongating that left turn to allow more storage. And what that would do is we would have to take away from some of the lane for the southbound left turns onto 104th. But there is a little bit of room there to elongate that to try to make sure we capture all of the storage and need for northbound left onto 105th Avenue. So thank you again.
So Sandra, I hope that answered your question, but if it didn't or you have a follow-up question, please feel free to ask it. Okay. Martin McCullough writes, for what it is worth, my recollection is that the purported access points by judicial decree have been a matter of dispute in the past. Hopefully the city attorney's office can either confirm or refute. This goes back to the city's acquisition of the city park site almost 30 years ago. So I would say that's something that the city's still looking at right now, Martin, that we're still studying those access points, and the decision has not been made or granted at that stage. One of the things that the preliminary development plan does do, though, at the city council stage is it does designate access points that are available to a site from a public right-of-way. So that is something that would be resolved at the PDP stage. And Sandra, you have your hand raised, so I'm going to go ahead and give you the ability to speak, Sandra. So Sandra, you can go ahead and unmute yourself, and then if you have a microphone, you can speak.
Oh, there we go. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes.
So
Oh, I just lost you, Sandra.
can you hear me?
Now I can. Yep.
Sorry about that. So my concern with the whole turning left, it was easier for me to raise my hand than to type it all, because we go to the rec center a lot, and turning left, it does back up out of that left turn lane to where I've almost been hit because all those cars trying to continue north, like, and not turn there, are trying to whip around the cars that are stopped, even though they're not in the turn lane because they've backed up into the straight lane. But the cars are trying to whip around them to keep going as opposed to getting stuck behind the ones that are trying to turn left because the light's red. So that's my concern with that. If you have more people trying to turn in there, it's just going to back up the light even more.
No, I if I can respond to that a little bit, I hear your concern, and you obviously drive this corridor. You know, the one thing to consider, and that's part of our asking for an additional access point on 104th, is giving people options. As a hopefully regular customer, and I know, I hope everyone on this call will identify with, as there's regular places that you go to, be it the King Supers that I go to by my house. If I were going north on 104th, maybe over time I would learn that it's safer or quicker even potentially to go left. I'm sorry, on Sheridan, go left on 104th and then use the right in, right out. And once again, I'm not a traffic engineer, Sandra, so I'm, Heath will make sure that everything is done the way it needs to be. My traffic engineer will coordinate and make sure that anything that can be done to improve the situation will be done. But that's my only thought on that is one of the things that we look at with multiple access points, is giving people different options.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that gets looked at, because I feel like it's kind of a safety hazard right now. Obviously, right now the rec center's closed, so there's not a whole lot of issues because people aren't going there as much. But
right, and I know also that as uses or traffic, increases, or turning movements increase. I'm speaking out of turn 4 Heath at this point, but I know signal timing can be adjusted to help alleviate some of the conflict. And I don't know if that's been looked at or is about to, but that's usually part of the process as well, in my experience.
yeah, that would probably help if the light's green longer for the people turning left.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sandra. This is Heath Klein again. And we do continue to monitor this intersection. So what you've noticed is in the peak hours, what we are doing is making it a protected left only, which is why you get that red arrow. But in the off-peak hours, so 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. or 1 p.m. to 4 p.m., it's a flashing yellow. The reason why we have the red right now is because of the nature of it being at the top of the hill. And sometimes in those PM and AM peak hours, there's just so much volume for South Sheridan that we do not want people risking that left and turning in front of that. But we are continuing to look at it and evaluating ways to improve this. So thank you again.
Okay, if anybody else has any questions or would like to speak to a question or say anything, please feel free to type your question in the chat or go ahead and raise your hand. So we got a question in the chat here from Rebecca Emily. She says, as for traffic, it already is bad. Add Berkeley Homes, it will only get worse. How will you deal with the increase of the traffic? So I'd like to direct that back again to Heath as well.
So thank you for the question. Yes, there is. I believe you were talking about the potential development of the southwest corner of 104th and Sheridan, and the city is still evaluating that. That project is under review. And right now, south of 104th Avenue, we have southbound Sheridan is 3 lanes, with that number 3 lane, the furthest west one, kind of serving as a continuous right turn. We're going to evaluate ways to improve that, as well as looking at the potential of 3 northbound lanes on Sheridan as well. But all of those are underway, and other places that we can tend to improve the flow of traffic is by our signal timing. And so we do keep a lookout and always looking for ways to improve that. So we will continue to do that.
Okay, and Greg Jackson also had a very similar question, and he said that it was addressed as well. So if there's any other questions or comments, please continue to feel free to type them in or raise your hand. Okay, Greg's asking the question, hours of operation 24/7. Mike, could you please answer that?
Yes, so we are a 24/7 operation, although from usually after the, I guess, the going home from work rush through the overnight, typically it is dead as a doornail. We are staffed on the overnight, and once again, speaking from experience, I used to work on overnights. The overnight is when we do all the extensive cleaning and restocking. So the lack of actual customer flow actually makes that work out well.
Okay, thanks, Mike. I'm going to go ahead and, seeing as we're not getting a lot of questions or hand raised, just give us a little bit of a time limit here, about 5 minutes. So if anybody else has a question they'd like to answer or a comment, we'll give 5 minutes until the last one's been addressed. And so Rebecca writes, how can you enter a 3rd lane northbound on Sheridan without taking away the sidewalk? Heath, would you be able to address that as well?
So currently, north of 103rd Ave or 104th Avenue, there is 3 northbound lanes, with that 3rd northbound lane ending shortly north of 105th Avenue. So, but south of that, if you're traveling north from like 98th Avenue, traveling north on Sheridan, yes, there is some landscaped area along the east side of Sheridan that if and when the city is looking at doing a project to widen the road, that green space would be taken up, and then the sidewalk would become attached at that point. But again, that is future looking out, and we have not really put a lot of details to that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Heath. And then this question is going to be for you, Mike. Is Quik-Trip looking at other locations in Westminster? That's from Lloyd Webber.
Well, in our real estate development team that we have here in Denver now, there are 3 real estate managers who do the site selection and acquisition, and then myself, who works through the development processes with the cities. I am not directly involved until which time they have a site under contract. I know that we are looking all over the Denver metro. Besides this location, I have 17 others in development in different municipalities. Westminster is definitely, I am speaking for them. Westminster is definitely on the radar. It's something, we see the opportunity for more than one store, but I don't know of any other specific intersections at this point that are, I know there aren't any under contract, but I don't know what ones they are trying to get.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Yep.
Okay, this one's from Martin McCullough. It says, in fairness to the developer, I intend to question approving a convenience store at the entrance and in front of the city's flagship city park with a huge investment in the land, the fields, and the absolutely beautiful multi-million-dollar buildings. Okay.
I don't know, Jacob, have you seen the landowner seller, Bill Kearney? Is he in attendance?
He is in attendance, yes.
I don't, if Bill would be willing to speak on it a little bit, I think that last comment kind of lends towards some of the history of this corner, and I believe the other corner across 104th as well. Bill, are you able to speak?
And Mike, I believe he's calling in from his phone, and he hasn't entered a PIN yet, which would allow him to unmute himself. And so I've sent him an audio PIN to unmute.
Okay, thank you. Well, Jacob, are there other questions coming in that while Bill tries to get on?
There are not any other questions or hand raised from the audience. So.
Okay. From the Quik-Trip standpoint, I just wanted to add, and as I think some of the elevations showed, it is our intention to fit into the overall development and be an asset and work closely with city staff and even definitely public input on what we can do to basically be an amenity and fit in. In other locations and other cities that we have stores in, this really is a very complementary use. I have 3 children, 2 of which play soccer. And when you're at the soccer fields, ball fields, and you have, 20 minutes or an hour between one game and the next, it's nice to have someplace close and convenient to go and get yet another Gatorade or yet another bag of ice for the cooler or something like that. So that's part of what excites us about this location.
Okay, there's another question here from Greg. Are there plans to place any other stations down at the Butterfly Pavilion's location? I would assume that the city would oppose any others same or competing in that other location if this were approved. Would that be an amendment to the land development plan? So there are not any other plans for gas stations down by the Butterfly Pavilion's location. I'm not sure if you're talking on the north side of the street or a replacement The city does have restrictions on how many gas stations can be located within a certain distance of each other, and how many at a certain intersection. But I'm not sure that that location would fit it for either there. And then Lloyd asks, is gasoline service absolutely tied to a Quik-Trip store?
If I understand the question is, would we have just the convenience store and no gasoline sales? In this type of a location, never say never, but in this type of a location, no, it wouldn't lend itself to that with the traffic and the distance from residential housing as people are driving, to work, back from work. We do have and have had other locations in more downtown urban settings that were just convenience stores, and that's where there is, within a square mile, like I'm going to guess at the number, like in a downtown Denver, where there's, 10,000 people within a mile all day long, and they are, ducking out of their office and walking down to grab something. That's where typically the convenience industry sees a demand and can make a go of it without gasoline sales.
Okay, and then we've got a question from Mary Pierneau. She says, what is the projected tax income to the city for this business? Mary, I don't know that question. It's actually not a specific standard or criteria that we review. Mike, do you have an estimate for what an average store pays in taxes?
That's, I am not an accountant either. I don't even want to throw a number out. It's not that I'm being evasive. I don't know how it would break down with what the city's tax rate is. And then the other side of that also is, what type of sales are we going to have? We just don't know how busy we're going to be for sure. So I'm sorry. Like I said, I hope you understand. I'm not trying to be evasive. I don't want to throw out a number because I just don't know.
Okay.
Hopefully that's the best answer. It is the best answer I have. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so sorry, Mary. I don't have an answer for that as well. Greg asks, if approved, expected development start date, and thanks for handling all my questions.
Oh, well, no, I appreciate all the questions. I hope it's coming through. This is, as we talked about prior to this meeting, Jacob and I miss in-person meetings. I think we all do, but it's the world we're in right now. Feedback's important, and it's important to us coming up with something everyone's happy with. If everything went like clockwork and, we agreed and compromised on everything, Jacob, once again, if everything went perfect, first round review, everything, approvals, are we still looking at 12 months? And that would be just getting through all the zoning. And I'm not going to quote you on it, Jacob. I mean, it's a lot of what it's saying. Yeah. So to me, if it takes 12 months to get through the rest of the processes, council, planning commission, additional neighborhood meetings, generally it's a 6 to 8 week process to bid to local general contractors and subcontractors. Then we would start construction afterwards, and construction on a site with this type of grading, I would estimate it about 7 months. So we're still talking in a hypothetical, it would be probably almost 2 years before the store would be open.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
Here's a comment from Martin McCullough. Says there's a gas pricing sign shown on the concept plan.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you wanted to say anything about that, Mike, or respond.
No, other than, yes, we show one on there. Westminster is the same as most cities. We just show it on there as where we're proposing and what we're proposing. But through the development process with the city, sign permits are reviewed and approved separately. If there's a part to that question that I'm missing, please ask more want to make sure I answer it.
Okay, and then Greg asks, is this going to be company owned or franchisee in this location?
We have no franchises. We have over 850 stores in 13 states, and they are all company owned. Like I said before, and I didn't go into great detail, but the founding family that started us over 60 years ago, they still own, I think it's 75% of it. And the 25% is all employees like myself that have stock ownership rights as part of our 401k and retirement plans. So we do not franchise.
Okay, and then Martin is clarifying his other question or comment.
Okay.
He said, but I thought I heard there was no plan to have gas service at this location. Maybe I misheard. And you might have misheard. Yes, there is a plan. That's a specific part of their proposal is to have a convenience store with gas station as a part of it. So that's specifically a part of their request and development plan for the land uses. And Greg states, sorry that I missed the early details. Thank you for reviewing that again.
No, absolutely.
Okay, and we'll just keep this open for a couple more minutes. If anybody else would like to raise their hand or has any other questions, please feel free right now. And then if we don't get any within a couple minutes, we'll go ahead and continue to the conclusion of the meeting.
Jacob, do you want to attempt to play the animation file or?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me go ahead
And for folks that are in the audience here, just something we put together, it just kind of shows an aerial view.
Mike, can you see this up on my screen here?
I can.
Okay. So in case it wasn't clear in some of the images that Mike was showing at his presentation, they put together this kind of 3D model rendering that's kind of showing what their development would look like, or what they're proposing and asking City Council for approval of, essentially. And so that is the gas station pumps there and the convenience store, and then as you kind of see beyond it, there's still that other vacant lot that would be a future retail commercial development is the proposal from Quik-Trip. And then here we're kind of transitioning, and this is 105th Avenue there with the rec center in the back. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and give one last call for any questions or comments, or if anybody would like to raise their hand specifically to speak. And Mike, I've sent that pin again to the property
Bill?
owner, so I'm not sure.
Well, if I can, and this is really it's unfortunate, but I totally understand that he's not able to get on. You know, the one thing that I thought he might be able to help, because he does know the full history of all this, was, you know, and I'm just learning more and more all the time, but this property, there was an agreement between the city years ago, and in turn for the property owner donating, I believe he said 86 acres for the golf course, the commercial retail zoning was granted on this corner and I believe it's the corner, like I said before, across 104th. So the zoning is there. That's kind of besides, working through approvals of my use, but those corners are zoned as commercial retail. So, I'm sure if this doesn't work out for us, the next person or company would, do everything they can to be an asset to the overall development and complex as well. But that was the only part. I don't want to put any more words in Bill's mouth because I just don't want to misspeak. But that's the piece that I did know.
Okay, thanks, Mike. We did get a few more comments and questions here. This is
For
from
sure.
Catherine Tillery. She writes, just wanted to make sure the Quik-Trip folks know that there are people here in Westminster who are familiar with the brand and wholly support this project.
Well, thank you, Catherine. It is something I have a vested interest as a 23-year employee. But I just hope we get to the opportunity where the people that aren't familiar with us and our brand get to know us. We take pride in our great customer service. We pay our employees very well. They have careers with us, and I'm a prime example of that. So, like I said, my hope and my want is that we get to that point where others that haven't experienced Quik-Trip can get to know us.
And then the next question we have is from Greg. He's asking where the semi-tanks would come in from, which direction. He's assuming running south straight through the far west side behind the store and then exit south and the farthest west of the proposed double entrance. Is that determined?
That's not determined, or at least I don't know. And I don't know where the closest terminal is. In my mind, it all depends on where they're coming from. If they're working their way over from I-25, then I would anticipate that they would come in that first access on 104th, the one closest to the intersection. That way they would come right up behind the store and then possibly leave on 105th if they were then going to turn south and get back to 104th on Sheridan. But I don't know for sure. That's all dependent on where they're coming from.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Uh-huh.
So I'll give it a couple more minutes here in case somebody else wants to ask a question or raise their hand. Okay, this question is from Catherine again. She says, will this store use the same proprietary gasoline products as the rest of the brand?
Yes, unequivocally. We're rated as a top tier gasoline convenience store, and that's something that's part of our brand. So yes.
Okay, and we'll continue to give just a couple more minutes here in case anybody else has any more questions or comments.
Jacob, is it difficult to go to the slide that has my email there again if people didn't get a chance to jot it down? And because no, by all means, any follow-up questions, be it later tonight or next week or whenever it may be, that is my direct email, and please reach out to me with any questions or suggestions.
Greg states 3 slushies for the meeting participants. Wink, haha. Thanks for the information tonight. So Greg, go ahead and email Mike and
yeah, see what we can figure out.
Okay, and I'll just give us one more minute here, and then if we don't get any more comments or questions, we'll go ahead and wrap this meeting up.
Sure. I apologize.
Okay, well, I'm not seeing any more questions or hand raised coming in, so I'm going to go ahead and put us on our conclusion slide here. So lastly, if the next step for this development is that the developer has to revise their preliminary development plan and resubmit them to the staff for continued review. And then once the staff have accepted the plan is ready to be presented to Planning Commission and City Council and all of their studies, they will then schedule a public hearing, and that would be mailed out to everybody on the same mailing list that we use for this. We'll post signs on the property. It'll get posted in the newspaper and then as well on the city's social media and websites. If you have further questions or comments you'd like to provide on this, you can always contact me. That's my email address and that's my phone number. And then the city is also changing the way it announces projects to the city and trying to make it more accessible and available to everybody. And so we have a new website, a new web page that the projects will be featured on, and they'll be updated regularly with information about the neighborhood meeting and about this, the public hearings and the status of the review. And so this one is actually the first project to go up on that web page, and that's the link to it there. If you're not able to jot this down or find it on YouTube, you can always email me or call me, and I'll go ahead and send that link to you as well. Mike, do you have anything else you'd like to add before we close this meeting? Mike, are you still there?
I'm sorry, I had muted myself.
Yeah.
What? I'm sorry, did I miss a question there?
Oh, I was just asking if you had anything else to add
No,
to
just
the meeting.
no. Then thank you. Just to reiterate that this is still very early in the process. We have a lot of discussion and input from city staff, and then beyond that, Planning Commission and Council. Then also, if anyone that's been on the call has suggestions, things that they'd like to see with the site, there's plenty of opportunity yet to make this even better. So, by all means, I look forward to it.
Okay, and then we just had one final question from Sandra. She said, how can we get added to your list? So we don't currently have a list yet for this site, but you'll be the first person on it. So occasionally we do send updates out when an application has been scheduled for a public hearing or such. So I'll go ahead and put you as the first person on the list, Sandra. And with that, I'd like to thank you all for attending our meeting tonight. This was actually the city's first new official neighborhood meeting that we're hosting virtually. So thank you all for attending and participating in the meeting.
Definitely. Thank you all.